What's going on, podcast listeners? My name is Michael Chernow. I am a restaurateur and lifestyle entrepreneur, and I am truly obsessed with living a life better than yesterday through wellness, fitness, and good vibes. I've always wondered if the drive to succeed is something we are born with, or if it's something that is made over time through grit, drive, and perseverance. I get to answer that question exactly, and the goal of this podcast is to talk with people that have absolutely crushed it in life and have inspired me to do the same. This is Born or Made. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. Today, I've got a guest on. I remember when I first met this guy. I walked into the Promix house, which is, I would say, probably the most elite fitness facility in Manhattan, potentially in New York City. I walked in there with the owner of Promix at the time, my boy Matt, and he goes, "We're going to work out with a beast." And I was like, and literally, I remember just being there. And like, when I hear that, I get fired up because I just love getting my ass kicked. And I saw Rashaad walk across the floor, and I was like, that's got to be the dude. That guy's got to be the guy. And then sure enough, Rashaad Slowley walks up to Matt and I, and then, he basically proceeds to absolutely destroy the two of us. I will say that I love that shit. I don't think Matt loved it as much as I did. But Rashaad Slowley is he is an absolute elite fitness trainer. He is sort of like a nationally known for fitness trainer. He's the CEO of Do More Fitness, which runs his business. He is a former professional football player. He went to Southern Connecticut College, crushed it in the running back position there, broke multiple records. He's just first of all, an insanely humble guy, but an insane athlete and a guy that has inspired me every single time I see him. I follow him on Instagram, and I hit him up the other day and I said, dude, I just got to get you on the show, man. Just cause I'm a massive football fan, and I believe that running back is absolutely the toughest position on the field. And he is an incredible specimen of a running back. So Rashaad, welcome to the show.
Man, thank you for having me here. I'm so happy to be here. And, I remember when you asked me this, I was telling my boy, it's crazy how everything comes in full circle, how I was working at Equinox, and obviously I was good friends with Devin, and, I wanted to get into Promix House, just because, I've all the trainers in New York City there that are pretty much established, and they look like they're having fun. Content is amazing. So I'm like, I need to get in here. Dev's like, you need to get in here. I want you to train, the owner and his boy, and, see what they think, kick their ass. And it's just funny how, now I'm sitting here on your podcast, three and some years later and some change, and we're in a different position. The world's in a different space, but here we are. We both doing pretty well for ourselves, I would say. And just like you, I see what you do, just from a business standpoint, because that's the ultimate goal, being that business-minded, business-like individual, to have different platforms, different sources of income, and kind of making it happen. So thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, dude. I gotta say, I think that we are in such a unique time in history, specifically in the way of wellness, right? Like, being a fitness professional today is arguably as respected as being like an actor, right? Like a successful actor. People look to you for guidance. People look to you for, in some cases, saving their lives. I think that is like, because I know for me, without a question of a doubt, fitness saved my life, without a doubt.
Right.
And I want to ask you about that too for you. But it's incredible to see the way fitness, nutrition, mindset, wellness has really taken shape over the last 5 years, man. And, you know, and you're a guy that, like, when you walk into the room, you demand a presence, you know, that you don't ask for it. You walk in, you've got a massive smile, your people are just drawn to you, and you happen to be an insane athlete. And I remember very clearly when we were working out, you know, I grew up in New York City, and I went to public school, and there was no football. There's no football in New York City unless you're rich, you know, like it just doesn't exist. And I love football so much. I always wanted to play football. I'm unfortunately only 5'8", so I would have a really, really hard time. But running back is my favorite position. And when we started working out, I said to myself, I was like, dude, this guy is definitely a running back. Like, I know he's a running back. And because I think that the training for that is, you have to be insanely powerful, insanely fast, like quicker on your feet than pretty much anybody else on the field. Like, you have to be able to move, your footwork has to be beyond everyone else. I mean, you know, my boy Saquon, you know, that guy is he's a legend, and you guys are essentially like I think he's an inch or two shorter than you, but you guys are so similar in your makeup. So I just want to give you a quick rundown of how this thing works, right? The Born and Made podcast is basically a passion project of mine. I really love connecting with human beings, and I've always walked around with this question of whether or not I was born to do what I do, or if I discovered, you know, the skill set that I had along the way and ultimately just worked my ass off to get to where I'm at today. And I question that, and I would talk to friends about that too, that were, you know, doing well in their industries. And then I said, you know what, man, I'm going to have a podcast, and I want to get people on, and I want to ask this question because I think it's so interesting. And so that's what we talk about here. I mean, not the whole way through, but the way we get there, the way we figure out whether you think you were born or made, or whether you were born or made, is by getting your story. And so we take it all the way back to when you were a kid, and you give us your story, man. And I'll interrupt you to say, hey, like, what made you think of that? Or, you know, just so we can see if there were any examples of like this born thing or this discovery thing. So let's get into it, man. Give it to us, brother. Give it to us. Go way back. Open the door. Open the door.
Wow. Going back to when I was a kid. Well, I would say first that, you know, I grew up, I'm the only child, and I grew up with my mom, single mom, you know, so it's just been me and her, you know, and I've always been like, I've always had a lot of energy, I would say. So, you know, she put me in a lot of sports, and you know what, let me just go inside before this catches. The Florida weather is so crazy here, bro. It's like, it's sunny all day, and then it just rains like for an hour, maybe not even, you know, and but I'm here. So so she put me in a lot of sports, really. You know, I played I played baseball, was my first sport, because my birthday's in March, right? So, you know, when you turn 9 in the middle of the year, it was baseball season. So, you know, I started at 8, played baseball, then I went into basketball, and I ran track, I did karate, I did swimming, I kind of did everything, you know? And I wouldn't say I was the best. I always tell people this too. Like, I was not the best athlete growing up as a kid, you know? I played Pop Warner football, and at the time it was a weight limit, right? So I was on the heavier side. And so I played the line because I'm on the heavier side amongst, you know, my group, my age, and I really didn't get exposed to playing running back or anything like that. So, you know, I just love to hit. I love to play. I love to run around. And that's kind of what I did all the way up till high school. And, you know, in 8th grade.
Real quick though, that sports stuff, was that something that you were asking for, or was that something that your mom decided that she was going to do for you?
So my mom decided she was going to do it for me initially. just because I always was hyper in the house. That's originally how I got into sports. And she threw me into sports. And, as a kid, all my friends played, I was athletic. I was, at least good. As a kid, all you need to do is run fast and you're like the man, or so I started to love it. And then I loved being around my friends and, playing sports with them. And it was just like a fun thing to do. So I asked, and in the town, all the athletes play every sport. So the same people that play football, you'll see in the baseball league, you'll see in the basketball league. And so I wanted to play everything. Everybody played everything growing up, like where I'm from in Mount Vernon, everybody played every sport. And I kind of just took that, and led that all the way up till high school. And then once you get to high school, when sports start getting a little bit more serious, the seasons matter. You can't really just play everything. Like, you gotta kind of narrow it down to a sport that you're really good at. So it wasn't until 8th grade I found out that I could run a ball, like in a real game. Like, I wasn't the best running back, but then that brought me up to high school. And during this time, I played AAU. I still played baseball, Babe Ruth League, and I was really good at all 3 sports. I didn't still distinguish, if this was my sport, not basketball, because it didn't really matter. Nowadays in basketball, you got to be 6'10", 6'7". I felt like when I was younger, we'll get to it, but I grabbed a lot of rebounds, and it didn't matter. People weren't that much taller than me in AAU until you got to high school. Stuff started getting serious. So I went to Stepinac in White Plains. It's a Catholic school, and they're really predominantly known for sports, football, basketball. They won the last 3 out of 5 New York State championships, and we've drafted 2 people, and 3 people went to the league from my high school this year. So, we're well known for football, and I went there. I started varsity as a sophomore, and at the time growing up, Ray Rice was like my bigger brother. All the athletes, all the football players in the area, he kind of took under his wing, and we'll train with him 6 a.m. in the morning. And it's kind of cool. At the time, he was from New Rochelle, but he was going to Rutgers. So Rutgers recruited me as a sophomore. We would go to all his games. And people probably don't know this, but I know at Rutgers they had the Louisville game that they won by a kick. The same year they won by a field goal to South Florida, and they rushed the field every time. It was just like a cool experience as a high schooler, bringing all my friends to the Rutgers game to see my friend play. And I met Coach Chernow. He had introduced me to him. Kind of put a word in, and that's when I started, really getting into recruitment. And I'm like, wow, I could really play football in college. Just when I realized, what I could play in college, what position I could play, what I was really good at. And that's when I think I kind of started getting really serious into one sport.
So real quick, I want to stop you there for a sec. So
Yep.
At that point, when you get recruited over to Rutgers, were you were running back, playing running back?
Yep.
Was there a moment where you you said that, that was sort of the time when everything kind of changed, but can you recall a moment where you said, this is going to be me, this is going to be what I'm going to do, and I'm going to put my head down and go?
As far as one specific thing,
going into football, but also saying now I got to lift, now I got to do track days, now I got to do all this shit, and not being asked to do it, but doing it. Oh
man. So the thing is I was always that person, and I still am, which is, it's all in one bubble. My name of my business is Do More, so I've always been that person.
Why?
Probably because of my mom. I've sat down and thought about this for a while. My mom, being a single mom, she's a nurse practitioner. I've seen her do so much. And her mentality towards me in everything, school, she didn't really understand sports, but anything I did, it was never enough. Like, you come home with an 89, and it's like, why you didn't get a 94 or why you didn't get a 95? Like, it was just kind of, and it kind of, you don't really realize these things when you're young. This is something that I kind of realized as like recently within the last couple of years, so it just was like a natural mentality in anything I did. Like, I was that person where it's like, relax, you're doing too much as a kid. Like, you're jumping too much, or you're playing the game too much, or you're running around too much, or you're just doing a lot. Like, I was hyper, I was everything I just wanted to do. I seen people lift. I remember when I was going into high school and I seen my strength condition coach, he had like big traps. I was like, damn, those traps look big. Like, how can I get those? He showed me how to clean, how to shrug. I promise you, I did that all the time. Just because I seen something, I always just knew like I had to do more, I had to get this in, like, so I was always that kid, even if it wasn't sports. It could be like something stupid, like, playing action figures. I'm breaking all of them. Like, I'm just doing a lot. Like, it's just like, I was always that person just doing the most. So I feel like it kind of translated into sports because that's what kind of consumed my day. I was sports, being athletic and being strong. And like, so prior to Instagram and fitness, and people that know me from I was really young, they know that I was like that person trying to work out all day, like, or trying to play sports all day, or like trying to do just active like all day, like, so I think it's just like it's just something that it's just like a natural thing, like, it's hard to really pinpoint.
So you're saying you're born already, you were just born?
I feel like I was born with just the engine. I feel like I was born with the engine, I guess. So yes, what I'm doing is really, what I love. And it's kind of what I've been doing my entire life. When I was younger, as I told you, I looked up to people and trained with them, and naturally that became me. I had the younger guys, they always came and trained with me. So I worked out with them, and like, in a sense, I was like their trainer, like, it's just like, when I think about it, it's like something I've been doing, and like, that's what kind of got me into personal training. People started asking me, train me, like, let's work out, let's do this. And I'm like, well, this is a career, like, so this is something that I should actually invest time, money in, be more knowledgeable. Like, I've been through, pro day, off-season workouts and pro day workouts. And, so why can't, this is what I said to myself, why can't I be that person if people are going to ask me constantly, like, this is what I want, like,
I love it, dude. I love it. I mean, we very rarely get to the question whether you were born or made until the end of the pod. But I feel like, the way you're describing it here, it just, I asked the question because it just seems so obvious to me in your case. Like, I'm always on the fence for the most part, whether what people are going to say, to be totally real. Like, but in your case,
yeah.
it just seems like you really were. You were born for this. All right. So you're in high school now and you're a sophomore, you're playing at Rutgers. Ray Rice, who's an absolute beast, is essentially your mentor. Right. I remember I was at a UFC fight. I was at the Conor McGregor fight at the Garden a few years ago, and Ray Rice walked in, and he's not a big guy in terms of his height. But dude, his legs are like, they're literally like tree trunks, like I couldn't believe it. I don't think I've ever seen anybody like that before. I was just like, wow. I mean,
bro, it's insane. It's insane. So yeah, I'm a sophomore. I'm at Stepinac. I had transferred from Mount St. Michael, which was another Catholic school, freshman year, because all my friends and everybody, that I played AU basketball with went to Stepanek, and the football team, kind of wanted me to play on that team. They're really good. So I kind of transferred schools. And, at that time, I could honestly say I wasn't really invested in academics, like I wasn't like really invested in my schoolwork until sophomore year going into junior year in high school, when I realized I was getting all these letters. And I know it's just once you're on a board, colleges start flooding you with letters, but it was just kind of overwhelming. It was just like all the schools in the Northeast, Rutgers, Syracuse, Maryland, and I went on to junior year. We got a new OC, and we used to run a wing T. And me, I'm a north and south runner. So that didn't complement my running style, but we got a new OC. He came in, we went to single back, power I, and, that season I lit it up. And, after that, I would say things started really moving as far as football. I didn't play basketball my senior year, and I ran track instead. And I, all these colleges were coming to my school, Iowa coach, Michigan, it was just, I was going on all these different visits. Fun fact, Eric Abagu, he's the guy that used to yell, "Protect this house" in the Under Armour commercials. Mm-hmm. He went to my high school, which is why my high school is sponsored by Under Armour. And so we have like a little connection with Maryland. So the whole plan was for me to, go to Maryland, visited, took an official, they wanted me to go to junior college, like all the other D1 schools that I got offered from. But because of my grades, really. And, I just, given the fact that if I got hurt, my scholarship would be gone, and basically I'll be resetting. I kind of just went the D2 route, and I looked for the biggest, best D2 school around, because I qualified for Division II school, and I went to Southern Connecticut. I finished my senior year in high school. I was the Catholic League Player of the Year, Low HUD Player of the Year. I had the same amount of touchdowns. Fun fact, same amount of touchdowns in my senior year in college that I had in high school. 29.
Wow.
And in high school, crazy. I give it like
that's crazy.
It's crazy. I give myself a little asterisk on senior year in high school because I threw a touchdown. So I always have this thing with my coaches where it's like I had 30, like I didn't have 29, so so I ended up going to Southern Connecticut. I just really just walked into the coach's office and was just like, I'm looking for a place to go. This is like in April. So financial aid is done, scholarships money is gone, so I really just sat down and was hoping, to walk on, and, because Maryland said I could transfer after 2 years. So that was like my whole plan. When you're young, you just want to go to the big school and you want to be the big name on TV. And that's the kind of place I was at, so he's like, we don't have any money, but you could come here for the year, and, whatever happens after the year, we could then speak about, plans on scholarships and things like that, so I went to Southern Connecticut, and it was a humbling, eye-opening experience, because people are like, if you're not at USC, Penn State, the U, then, you're not, competition sucks, everyone sucks, and it's like, nobody's good, you're not going to get good football. But I went there, and it's like all guys that are in my position, like, they went to a school, maybe academics or whatever the case is, but they're all D1 guys, which is why this school makes it to the playoffs for the Division II every year. All the best Division II schools just steal D1A guys from whatever situation they come from, and they kind of, build it up. So I got to Southern Connecticut. I didn't redshirt. I started at kick returner, and I rotated in at running back. The guy ahead of me, his name was Jerome Freeman. he previously that year had 415 yards in a game. And it was like all over ESPN. It was crazy. So I'm like, I'm never going to pass this guy, like whatever. But I didn't really play much. He got hurt. I got a couple carries in games. I kind of felt like I burned my red shirt for no reason. I kick return, but that was that. I didn't bring anything back. I was young and these guys were big. They're moving, they're fast, they could hit. It was like, I was coming from high school. I was like, damn.
So I want to
go to
I want to
Maryland.
talk about that because I actually haven't had an opportunity to really ask, anyone on the podcast what it was like coming from high school sports into college sports, especially at like an elite level. What was that feeling when you stepped on the field with those dudes? Like, how did that feel?
Man, I don't know, because it's so many feelings, because you're trying to prove yourself, right? But you also, and I realized that a bunch of people like me, coming from where I came from, I went to scout all 100 camps with the best athletes in the world. I roomed with Deion Lewis at scout camp. Like, there's so many guys that I played with. So me coming into this school, I'm like, I'm the man. There's nobody else that's better than me. Like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to start. And then you see all the other freshmen, you see the running back, that's your competition. So you're trying to beat him out. You got to beat other guys out. But then when it starts, it's like, this is real. This is not high school anymore. It's just a different, I don't know, it's faster. They kind of expect you to just, know it, like a gap. Like, they're not teaching you shit anymore, because vets get up, juniors get up, seniors get up, and they're just running, So it's like, I think of it as I've had a chance to be a part of at least a training camp or mini camp, preseason camp on every level. And as it progresses, they just expect less mistakes,
I mean, I just think about it. I'm like, you're in high school, you're playing football, and everybody has dreams, right? But I would only imagine that once you get into college and you're playing football at a high level, it's not about dreams anymore. Dudes are like, I am going to kill to be in the NFL. Like, everybody on the team and every opponent that you play is not only playing to win, but they're playing for their life. Like, I am going to be in the NFL. That is my ultimate goal. That's why I'm here. And I'm going to do everything in my power to get there. And I can only imagine that the intensity and the stress on an 18-year-old dude is like, wow. Like, I can just, I can't,
You're actually right. And it's funny because I'm almost sure, just from everyone that I know, like, when you're in college and you're in that college, you are going to the league according to all your peers, the fans in the colleges, the people in the town. Like, it's like, that's your dream. That's what you're fighting for. But people are in your ears telling you, you are NFL bound, I feel like that happens to like at least 10 players on every team in every college, So it's like pressure, but it's definitely go hard. Like, spring ball is like a different breed. Everyone's shooting for a spot. Blue versus white, which was, my colors. It's nuts. You're trying to take their head off. It's insane. That's probably where you bang the most. Preseason, you're just getting a team right, getting ready for the season. You're not really trying to kill anybody. Springtime is when, you turn the lights off and you kind of try to make a name for yourself, because by the time preseason comes, they kind of have the depth chart already, based on what they've seen in the springtime. So it's really a battle, like I love that energy though. Everyone's trying to be better than somebody. I love that energy. And that's kind of what I miss about football, not scoring touchdowns, running. I really miss the energy of the competitiveness and, like in practice, getting angry and like, just going hard. Like, it just something about that just brings like an adrenaline where it's like you can't get that in a lot of sports or anywhere else in life unless you're right there in that moment, you know? So that's huge. But you know, going through college, I'm young, I'm trying to party. My roommate redshirted, so it was challenging because he would go out on Thursdays. We have away games. He's done after Thursday, you know? We have walkthroughs the next day. Then we, depending on the game, we have to either leave Friday or Saturday, stay in a hotel, whatever the case is. And it's like, I wake up I'm there on Friday and, you know, the room, the doors are open, everyone's drinking and partying. And I'm like, damn, I got to play in this game. But all my friends, you know, only like 4 people didn't redshirt, you know? So everyone else is like outside all day. It's in college. It's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday was like a crazy party school town. It's like New Haven's there, Yale's there, Quinnipiac. So it's a crazy party town. So it was really challenging trying to balance it all out, especially as a freshman in college. But me being a starter, you know, me breaking my red shirt, starting, you get respect from the vets, you know, and they kind of took me under the wing of, you know, and I was already a hard worker, like I said, you know, and I really just put my head down when it came to being on the field and bust my ass, you know. Next year, sophomore, I didn't start till senior year, but I led the team in rushing since sophomore year, so for 3 years. And it sounds crazy, but yeah, I was rotating 2-1, me being the one when the senior was there, and then I rotated 1 and 1. I know it's crazy. So after my sophomore year, like I said, I could transfer, right?
And wait, but I just got a question. Did you not start because that guy in front of you was putting up insane numbers? Is that what it was?
So, you know, in sports, seniority is a thing, right?
Right.
And my coach is an old school. He retired a year after I left. So 30 years coaching. He's an old school coach. Seniority is definitely a thing. So I feel like for him, on our team, seniority mattered. You know, if you're a junior and you're starting, you had a good season last year, that job is yours to lose, you know?
Got it.
It's yours to lose. So me coming as a freshman, you know, I didn't have a chance to start. I don't even think that was an option, you know? And I didn't only start getting frustrated though, because even when I got my carries, you know, as a freshman, I did good, but I wasn't the speed from high school to college. You really have to adjust unless you're running a 4.3 already going into college. You know, you really got to adjust to the game speed, and it was just different. And so me as a freshman, the times I did get the ball, it's not like you looked at me and was like, he needs to start over both of those guys. You know, they had experience. Like I said, he just came off of he ran for 415 yards in a game. He wasn't losing that spot, you know, but he got hurt. I filled in. I did what I have to do. I didn't break any crazy runs or anything. So, but preseason, springtime, I balled out. So everybody knew, you know, that I could ball, like, you know, and it wasn't until like midway through sophomore year, people were like, damn, why isn't he starting? You know, I didn't really get frustrated until, well, like I said, so I could have transferred, but once you get to college, you realize that there's more to transferring than this school said I could just come here. You know, I got to now build a name at a different school as a junior, competing against their scholarship guys coming in, the seniority guys that are already there. It's like a reset. Nothing's guaranteed, you know? So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna stay here and I'm gonna just do what I could do and make it happen. And I played, I had a good junior year. Like I said, you know, I was the backup running back, but I led the team in rushing. And then it came down to my senior year and it was like highly anticipated. my coach has never ran an offense with just one running back solely. Like it's always been a rotation, 1-1, 2-1-1. You know, it's always a rotation of running backs. And to this day, everyone says that he probably owed it to me. So my senior year, I was the single back. Like I was the one guy. I didn't rotate with anybody. Just feed me, you know? So we did that my senior year, and I just went off. Like from, I don't even know if I should tell this story. So I'm going to tell it.
I want to hear it.
So when I played, I was into this show, Prison Break, right? I was hooked on it. Loved it. One of my favorite shows. I couldn't stop watching it. Took a 7-hour, not even, I think it was longer than that, 10-hour bus drive to West Virginia to play this school. And I'm watching the show all day. The bus ride, no sleep, get to the hotel. And my roommate, he's been my friend since we were 9. We've been growing up playing football, all sports growing up, you know? So I know we have meetings at 7. So, you know, I have my Beats headphones on and I'm watching the game in the bed, and I just look up and my running back coach is standing there. He's like, "Where were you?" I look at the clock. It's like 9 p.m. Oh, I missed all my meetings the whole night watching this show, right?
Wow.
And this is the first game of the season of my senior year, right? And shit. So it's like so highly anticipated. I know that the team loaded the box up, and you know, the whole game plan was basically around me, right? And I got suspended for the first quarter. So we did good. We ended up having 7 interceptions that game, which worked in our favor, but we didn't score till obviously I got in, and that's how I started my season off. You know, I had like 3 touchdowns that game, and every game it was just like 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, just, you know, going off every game. But my worst game was probably a snow game. You know, it was like 2 feet of snow on the ground, and I had 1 touchdown. You know, I was pissed. I was like, this ruined my game, like, you know. And I had another game because we destroyed Pace. It was like 60-0, and they took everybody out in the first quarter, so I didn't play the rest of the 3 quarters. But you know, I went off that entire season, and you know, started getting all these awards, crazy recognition, and you know, something that I wasn't prepared for, you know, going into now what is business. Like, you know, it's not just happy-go-lucky going up to the next. I'm coming in from a D2 school. Like, it's tough. Like, you know, so I finished my last game, went crazy, senior day, got to the tunnel, and there's a guy in there. He's an agent. And he's like, "What's up, man? You know, I know you just finished your game. Here's my card. I want to talk to you after this, you know, get you training, you know, teams are ready, blah, blah, blah." Just talking. I just finished a game, my last game. My mind is going crazy. And I just remember, I'm like, wow, I gotta handle this. I gotta figure out where do I even go talking to an agent, or like, what the hell? Like, you know? So I called Ray up and I'm like, "Yo, what do I do? I don't know what to do. All these agents are hitting me up now. My emails are going crazy and I don't know what to do." And he's just like, "You know, what are they saying? You know, just leave them right now, because they're all going to want to, you know, sign you, ask you for this right now, but you need to take a break, figure out, you know, what all-star games you'll be in, blah, 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 like, you know, pro days, like, you know, normal stuff, you know." So I let time go. And one of my boys, he played in the league from my town. He went to Pitt. He was training with a guy, Coach Joe DeFranco. And he was training in Jersey at the time. He trained Brian Cushion. He trained tons of guys from Jersey, all the Bergen guys. And he was like one of the best sports performance trainers, you know, at the time in Jersey. So hit my boy up. He's like, you know what? I talked to Joe DeFranco, and he gets like hundreds of emails from guys that want to train with him for his pro day, but he only selects like 15. And he selected me to come and train with him for, 6 days a week for 3 months. And it was crazy. I'm like, how am I supposed to do this and go to school? So I'm like, damn, I got a semester left, but I have a real good shot at making the NFL. I need to take this semester off. I promised my mom I'll come back, but I need to take this semester off. And me doing that, I told myself I cannot skip school and then half-ass this process. So I stopped drinking and I went to train with these guys 6 days a week, and that kind of changed. I feel like every step your eyes get opened into a new just a new spectrum of what is going on. So I'm training with all these athletes who are sick, like from Nevada, USC, like D2 guy that I knew of. He played in North Alabama with Jenkins. They had all these guys. They had like 11 SEC transfers, in North Alabama won D2 championship that year. And I was playing with him. He's like a 6'2", 240. He runs a 4'4" linebacker. And I'm like, these guys are insane. Wow. So it's just like humbling. It humbles me, Dave Deal's in the gym and all these giants and players. And it's just like humble me seeing all these athletes, Chris Hogan. And like, I'm like, damn, these guys are all faster than me. They're all bigger than me. It's like, it's like crazy. But, I trained with him and Joe DeFranco, he really, that was like a real, I was in one of the best shapes of my life. I had a chef drop off meals. I met my agent there. We had a couple guys, a running back from Penn State, a couple of other guys. And he treated us well. We had a sports therapy place. We had different sponsors, sign things, like all different kind of things like that, And Joe DeFranco got me into a Giants workout. So, and if they just basically, let me backtrack. Sorry. So I go to my pro day, right? Because this was another humbling experience, honestly. And I went to Fordham's pro day first. And at Fordham's pro day, it was like 150 guys and maybe like 12 teams, right? And I'm like, damn, and the only thing that really helped me out through my entire process was my numbers. If you looked at my numbers, you'd be like, damn, I have to at least see how this guy moves or what he's saying. It's just like a ticket to at least speak to me, The only person who had more touchdowns than me that year, I think, was Melvin Gordon in college football. And so I get to Fordham Pro Day and we weigh in, we bench, we run our 40s, and then they bring everybody in. They call like 12 names.
What were you benching then? Names.
I did 20 reps at 225. Dang. I did 20 reps at 225. I ran a 4.47. I usually just say I'm a 4.5 guy because, I didn't break 4.5 too many times, But, I guess a 7.2 L drill, 4.2 shuttle. My numbers weren't like, I had decent numbers. It wasn't like something like, whoa, but it's not something like, oh, nah, we can't get this dude. Like, it was just right dead in the middle. Like, I wouldn't say like, I'm not slow, I'm not fast. It just would be, it's more about, I wouldn't think I pop off the screen numbers wise. When you see me play, then I feel like, game film or how I play kind of translate better than my numbers, like, so we went to, and they called 12 guys out of like 150 guys. There's like 10 of my teammates here, and they told everyone else to go home. And it was like, wow, this is like real. They don't even want to see these guys. Like, what I'm saying? It's like, they don't even care. Like, these guys have been training for 3 months for this, Yeah. And I skipped my All-Star games, but I'll get back to it. And, then we ended up doing, running one-on-ones and different kind of drills that they want to see.
So you got called.
And yeah, I got called.
So
and,
wait, well, I just thought
performed.
that's a moment though, right? Like that's a moment, right? So
Yeah.
leading up to all this, you're just head down, you've made decisions. You're like, I'm going to take this as far as I can. Then you get to this pro
Right.
day out of 150 dudes and they call 12 guys and you get called. Can you bring yourself to that moment and just tell us what, like, I can only imagine that that's like a moment in your life.
Yeah, that's why I like to say during this process, and I call this, post-college is just like an emotional roller coaster, as far as football. And I remember just sitting there like, damn, it's March now. I've been training since January. Like, I don't know why they're calling people, but I hope that they call my name, because if they don't, I'll be devastated. I'm like, damn, I just trained all of this, I've dedicated my whole lifestyle, everything to just get an opportunity. And I'm like, I didn't know what to think, because I didn't know why they were calling names. I just knew people were standing and there were tons of people. So I was like, they need to call my name, but maybe I do want them to, maybe I don't. So even when I stood, I was like, all right. So what happens? And then they said,
Well, wait, one other quick question. In the training with Joe, did you love the training, or was it like, did you have like butterflies every time you were walking up to the gym? Like, what was that feeling like? Because I can only imagine that training was on some next level.
Bro, that training was next level. It was next level. He is crazy insane and smart. Him and Mike, the gang, he has it's called Freak Strength. That's his thing. Mike Durango. But they both trained together in Jersey at the time. And honestly, bro, to be honest, it was a little discouraging. I was training with my boy, it's random, but he went to JFK in the Bronx and he ran a 4.29. In high school, he had 7 carries for 306 yards. It might be 6, I might be lying. But he ran a 4.29 in high school, went to Penn State, offered, committed right away, went to Penn State, right? So this is now, we're training now, and we both got the same agent. So I'm training with him. So obviously I've always been a beast when it comes to strength, things like that. But I wanted to, this whole process, I really wanted to work on my 40, because I knew that would be the make or break, what I run in my 40. And during that training, it was fun, but training for the 40 wasn't fun. It was like, training tons of 10s. I probably ran like 100 10s in one training session, 10-meter dashes. And, the times weren't, I'm like, damn, I've been busting my ass and I cannot get this time right. It's all a mind game with numbers and times. So that's when it comes to the business standpoint, because even though you feel good, like even today, you'll do a workout, you feel good. You lift this, like, let's just say you normally do 255, but today you had 245. That's okay. You still got it in, you feel good. In this point in my life, it wasn't like that. It was like, if I can't run this 10 in 1.6, then I will not be in the NFL. They won't even look at me, So it was like a numbers game. I will leave a workout like, yo, I gotta be better somehow. Like,
And is that speed all about how you take off? Is it really all about that first step?
Yes, it's about the technique. It's all about that first step. When I literally tell you, they down to a measuring tape, how big your feet is, your stance, put a tape right here. Your first step needs to be here. You run a 10, first step wasn't at the tape, do it again. Like, that's how tedious the training was. And that's how it is when it comes to all athletes today. Like, what I'm saying? It's really the 1%. You're trying to get somebody's 10-meter time down by point one. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like all that little stuff matter. Keeping your chin tucked for 6 steps, then it's like a whole thing, bro.
Wow.
It's super technical, super technical. So for me, I was really explosive. That helped me, right? You know, being explosive, but I had to get into the right stance to support, you know, my explosiveness. You know, I got to get into the right, physically, I have to get into the right stance. Like, you know, so it was frustrating. I can't lie. It was frustrating. But it was what I needed. And I could say I gave it my all, you know, during that training. It's not like he would let you let up, or even our pairs, you know, it was like 15 of us in the time training, and nobody would let anybody let up. You know, it was like the energy in there was crazy. That's something I miss. I'm like an energy guy. Like, you know, I love being around energy like that, especially energy that you can't like call a few people and create. Like, you know, you just got to be there at that time. Like, you know, that's
Well, when
like
you're, I mean, I just know for sure, like when you're around people that all have the same exact vision, that kind of energy is, you know, when I used to open restaurants, and I've taken a break from the restaurant business since the pandemic, but, you know, I've opened up a bunch of restaurants, and we would do, for the first 2 weeks before we'd open, we do these massive, you know, trainings. And every single day, I would get in front of the staff, and the way we would kick off our days together was I'd tell everybody to stand up, and I'd say, this is how we're going to perform as a unit. So everybody is going to stand up, and on 3, we are going to let New York hear us. And I would say 1, 2, 3, and everybody would scream. And then I would say, it just wasn't loud enough. And I'd say 1, 2, 3, and everybody would scream. And it got to a point where I felt so passionate about the sound of the crew, because that was ultimately going to be how we performed, that we started taping it. And we would always do it 3 times. And every single day, the third one was always the loudest. And I understood that as the energy wasn't experienced until that third screen, right? Because you're releasing the energy into the space, man. Energy is fucking everything. It's so real. So like, you can't create it. Everybody's got it. It has to be released into a room, right? And so I feel you with that energy thing.
I guess backtrack, you know, just like a couple months before Joe, I got invited to an all-star game. It was Division II versus NAIAA. I don't know if you know what type of colleges are associated with that, but they're not like D1, D2, D3. They're just like their own independent kind of colleges, and they have their own league, just like the NCAA. So we played against their all-stars. And, you know, I would say that was like the hump, like a hill emotionally, you know, going in, I was like the man, you know, I'm training with all these guys. At the time, I'm the Harlan Hill finalist, you know, I'm up for the player of the year for Division II. So all these guys, coaches are looking at me like, you know, they want to see what I could do, or they're trying to take my head off. Like they're, you know, it was fun, but it was like, you know, they kind of held me to a different standard. And it was like, I was really like on a high horse, just feeling good, just about coming off a good season. And, you know, I killed it that game. And the organization who runs that game, they invited me to the D1 AA All-Star game, where I went to Myrtle Beach, and I played against the D1 AA All-Stars, Stony Brook, James Madison, like all these different guys. It was crazy. And it's like, you know, this is the guy from the D2 who's now playing with all you guys because we invited him here. And, you know, I got an offer from overseas, Poland and Germany, like on the spot. They wanted me to sign on the spot. My college quarterback did, actually. But, you know, I had bigger, you know, plans at the time. But, you know, I went to my pro day. I went to Fordham's pro day. I went to Yale's pro day. Yale being my pro day from by my college. So I did the one at Fordham because all of Joe's guys got into that one. So I did those 2 pro days, and then, Kevin Gilbride, who used to be the OC for the Giants, coached at Southern Connecticut. So there was like a tie, like some kind of ties between the two. I met him in college, and then I went into a workout with the Giants. And this is when I realized that shit is real.
Yeah, I can imagine.
This is where I realized that all the touchdowns I've scored, everything I did, does not matter for shit. Nobody here cares about any of that. They don't care about where I went to school. The playing fields were even. They don't know you. They don't know what you could do.
Were they nice to you?
It's just like, oh yeah, they were nice. Oh hell yeah, they were nice. And man, I forget this guy's name. He ran all the he was the player, the president of all the rookies. He was in charge of all the rookies, and he sat us down and he said he said that he played in the year for one league. He played in the league for 1 year, and he knew that he wouldn't be in the league long. So during that 1 year, he kind of set himself up for an office position, so that he could further his career, which he did, and which is why I don't know if he's still there, but at the time he said, and I'm just going to keep it on, be honest with you guys. There's somebody at that door right outside right now knocking that's better than you. That could be better than you. Like literally, you have no room for error. Like, you piss in public, that guy's gonna come in, take your spot, your name tag is off of your locker, and somebody else will come in and it won't miss a beat, And I'm like, damn, we've been here like 30 minutes. Like, this is the first thing you're gonna say, but it was like so crazy. And, we went through the workouts, and I just remember, man, what was that quarterback's name? Not Chris. There's a quarterback from Tennessee, right? He's one of the brothers. He's a quarterback from Tennessee, but he just threw so hard. He threw the football so hard that I'm talking about wide receivers in the league now from Maryland, all type of schools, will have people cut them online because they don't want to catch the ball with him, because he's hitting guys in their helmet. Like, he's throwing rockets, bro, rockets. So it really just came down to who can make the least mistakes, and me as a person just trying to get on the field. And, Ray was in the league at the time already, and me just training with league guys. I know that running back alone is not going to get me in the league. I got to do special teams, all type of shit. So I'm out there wide receiver, running routes. I'm taking handoffs. Then they go, all the returners stay. Everybody else go over here. I go back there to return because I'm like, I need to do something. And they put the ball in the machine. I've never seen a football go that high, that fast in my life. I've totally misjudged the whole football, bro. I'm looking at it, comes up. I'm thinking I got it. It's this high in the sky at this point, and I'm running up. It's going back. I just run back. I still caught it. You could just tell that I wasn't returning, but it was good. Went into rookie camp a couple weeks later, and then we went to camp. Got released, and I was trying to figure out what happens now. I worked out with some Canadian teams prior to, I had went to Florida to train for a couple weeks in April.
But wait, you just skimmed over that, man. I just want to dig, a little bit into that, because when you got released, what was that feeling?
Well, you kind of know it, right? We all have an iPad, and it was during, I know you watched Hard Knocks, right?
Mhm.
So especially in the beginning days, it's just like when they call you, coach want to see you, bring your iPad, you know what time it is, you know, and it's not like it was the first, I was the first person, right? And the shit happens every day, literally like every hour. You could be doing anything. But you know, it was just at this point, I would say I was already humbled. You know, I was already humbled by this experience. I've already been through emotionally up and down through training, everything, just all different experiences of the process has taken me in so many different heights and lows on my mood, how I'm feeling emotionally, where at that point, you know, I was just like, you know, bet. I'm in my head, you know, I'm just saying, bet, I'm not done. I gotta bounce back. And, you know, he said, so Jersey Joe, he was a running back from Rutgers and he was in camp with me. And they decided to keep him over me, right? And, you know, a couple weeks later, they released him as well. You know, there was a lot of running backs there because that was when Brandon Jacobs just left. They were on the market for tons of running backs. So they had a bunch of guys there. And they told me, you know, they're going to go with him. But, you know, they'll keep me on their board, you know, anything happens, things like that. And that's when you just kind of had to get back on the drawing board. But, you know, that process after that was just like the next 2 days I was out of it, you know, didn't want to talk to nobody, just like, I'm done, you know, and I went through that a few times. Draft day, you know, I didn't get that initial call right after the draft, you know, that like undrafted players do. That was like it was like day two prior to, so Tuesday. But it was just like, it's just a roller coaster because you never know what's going to happen, you know? Then you go on the Canadian journey. And that's like that's a whole nother journey. That's like a whole real political journey. You know, you can only have a certain amount of American players on a Canadian team. You can only have a certain amount of American players on the Canadian field at one time. So me and you both, we could be great, killing it. But if you're American quarterback and you go down, we need a quarterback. There's an American quarterback. An American has to go. Feel me? So it's like, it gets real political. So, you know, the way, I don't know if it's still, I'm pretty sure it still works like that, but I went to IMG Academy. That's where they hold their mini camps for all the Americans, right? And, you know, so I'm there with basically first or second year players on the Canadian team, and then all the guys that they invited to the mini camp. And some of those guys made it from, you know, day camps. People could just pay to go into a Canadian tryout, right? And they'll select a couple guys to come to their mini camp. So they put everybody in the mini camp. Canada's a whole different type of football. You know, running backs are now kind of wide receivers. They're not really handing the ball off unless you're more of like a fullback. You know, you're more of a scat back in Canada. You're running in motion before the ball snap, running to the line before the ball snap. It's a real catch pass game, you know? So even way more than NFL. The field is 5 yards wider on each side, so 10 yards total. So an out route is like a go route. You never want to throw an out route in Canada because it takes 10 seconds just for it to get out there, you know? So there's so many different rules and stuff. And this was like, I was like intimidated, you know, being in my first mini camp with Calgary, because I don't know if people know or realize, but, you know, in Canada, there's a lot of older guys, older ballers who have rings. They've played on Heisman. They've been a Heisman. They haven't been a Heisman, but they've played on like teams that have won the championship. You know, I was with CJ Gables, who played with Reggie Bush. And it's like, you know, these are guys that I looked up to. There's guys who are playing on undefeated Patriot teams. And it's like, wow, these guys are like 37, 38, you know, playing football. And it's like me, I'm like 22, 23 at the time. I'm like, wow, I don't know, you know, no offense to anybody, you know, and we'll get into why this is kind of like why I left football, but, you know, I don't see myself being 38, you know, trying to make a Canadian football team, you know, it's just not, that's just not where I wanted to be. That's 15 years of running through the loop of trying to, you know, land on a team. It's just like, if you think about it, it's insane, you know, to work 15 years to potentially be part of something where your lifespan is like 3 to 5 years. It's like insane. But, you know, so once you make a Canadian team in America, amongst the Americans, you go to Canada, and now you're amongst the Canadians. So you still haven't made the team yet. You still have to compete now against the Canadians, which Americans stay. Some people just get called up that just got cut from a team, like, you know, cut from a P squad, whatever the case is. So Canadian football starts in May. You go up there at the end of May, June, preseason starts around July, and then it goes, the Grey Cup is on Thanksgiving, right? So went up to Canada, played with Calgary, and then got released, went back home around October, train again. Now I'm back to the drawing board. I'm training now with DeFranco, but I'm back home. Oh, I lied. I went back to school. So I went back to school and I started running with the track team because remember I had a semester left, right? So I went back to school and I started training with the track team, training up there with all, there are two other guys who left with me. That one guy made the league and kind of got cut, and, you know, the in and out. So we trained together, tried out again for Toronto, went up to Toronto. That year didn't even start yet. So preseason, September came, got released just due to being an American and them needing Americans, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, after 2 years, I just was like, this is 3 years total now. It's just like, I've been around the block too many times. I need something secure. You know, I'm tired of training and not knowing if this is going to result to something, you know? You know, I'm not making money at this time, right? Right? I'm not like, you get little signing bonuses and stuff, but
Shoot.
Word. So it ends up not being, you know, worth it. Going to Germany, arena, all this other stuff. I was just like, let me go back to school and get my degree and figure out what to do. Like, you know, and quickly I interviewed for Indeed. My friend worked there, interviewed for Indeed. And this is a funny story, actually. So I interviewed for Indeed. You interview with 3 people, right? 3 team managers. And as long as 2 people give you a green light, then, you know, you meet with the main guy, but you basically have the job. Interview with him. I met a guy, the 3rd guy, he used to play in the NFL. So now we're just talking, we're chopping it up, talking about football. I don't even think it's an interview anymore. You know, I'm not really in interview mode. I'm just talking about football with a guy that used to play like at Fordham. And, you know, he's like, you know, if Canada calls you today, you know, what are you going to do? And I'm like, you know, I'll go back and play. Shouldn't have said that, you know, because they want somebody long-term. So I didn't get the job. And I told myself, that was like my first real interview for a corporate or anything, you know, in the corporate world. So I told myself, I'm never talking about football in an interview ever again. So then the next week I go to interview at Apple in Stamford, Connecticut. And all the guy wants to talk about is football. He wants to talk about the Giants. He wants to talk about college and how I do this and who I know and everything, because, you know, that brings leadership. What Apple kind of looks for, like leadership and, you know, working hard, different kind of things like that. And it just was so weird to me, you know, my mind was just everywhere. I was just trying to figure it out at the time, but I ended up working for Apple. for 3 years. I was at the Genius Bar, ended up being at the Tech Bar, just, I know, so random, right? But fixing phones, fixing people's computer problems. And I would work out every morning though, across the street at LA Fitness, work out. And people would ask me to train them. I started training people. I wasn't certified or anything. Started training people. And then I'm like, more people are asking me to train them more and more, but I don't have time because I'm working, right? And then I understand training. So I say to myself, I need to go to a school or enter a program where somebody could teach me. I know that training is more than come to the gym with me, let's do some pull-ups, push-ups. I need to learn, anatomy, like the body, how it works, how it moves. So I went part-time at Apple, and I invested in this school called the American Academy of Personal Training in Soho. And I went there 3 days a week from 9 to 3 and just learned about training. And for 4 months, September to December. And then I started getting into the fitness industry. That's where I met Dev through Nick. I knew Nick because I played AAU with him. And he's like, I'm training at the Royalton Hotel, like, Nick. And just, I'm training at the Royalton Hotel with my boy Devin. I want you to come work out with us, So I go work out. I'm still in personal training school at the time. I meet Dev, kicks our ass. That's this crazy ass workout. And I'm like, yo, we start chopping it up. We end up playing football in the same league in college. And it was just funny. We just started, Dev being cool, good energy. We just started chopping it up. And he's like, I'm gonna open up this gym soon and I want you to come work for me, but we gotta link up. And, I went through personal training school, and I started working at Equinox on Bond Street. So started working at Equinox, and me living in Mount Vernon, it's a different demographic for me, being in Soho, working at Equinox, talking about money with these clients. It sounds like a lot of money. Like, what I'm saying? It's like, you want me to tell this person that, yeah, give me $22,400 and we'll get this, I'll change your body, I'll do this, blah, blah, blah. Just learning how to speak to people. I would say that I came into that place at a great time. It was only open for a couple months. It was like the hottest club in New York City. We broke a record in Equinox for having the most meeting budget for the most consecutive months in Equinox history, just because everybody was busy. All the trainers were busy. Everyone in Soho wanted to come to that gym, and everyone wanted to train. And I think I was unique because I was like this ex-professional athlete. I'm in there working out for 3 hours, 4 hours. And they're like, yo, who's this beast? In a commercial gym, the more you're in the gym, the more people get to know you, the more they talk to you. And that's kind of how I kind of built, I want to say, I guess, my name in New York City, or my following. I know James from Tone House. I grew up with him. So just the kind of little connections. I started going to Tone House all the time, like 5 days a week, and meeting all those guys. And that's how I just kind of got into like the mix, and did really well. Dev always said, come to Performance House, come to Performance House. But I wanted to milk Equinox for all their certifications. It was free. I wanted to get my nutrition cert. I wanted to do all that stuff, and then go out and have some fun. But I felt like that was important because that's the reason why I, invested into school and things like that, just to learn more. I could work out all day and you could work out with me all day. My whole thing was just to learn more. So, I got this award, no days off award at Equinox, just because I worked out every single day. I overtrained. It was like crazy. I went to Pilates once a week. I went to yoga once a week. I just was like a workhorse. I don't know what I was just in a gym. I lived in a gym. It was the first time I had to be in a gym for like 12 plus hours, all day. So I had nothing else to do but work and program, So moving forward, then, at Equinox, in New York City, I started now working with brands, and started building. And then that's when I met you. I trained you and Matt at Promix. And, from there, I really want to say got to Promix and stuff started moving a lot faster, and, the content guys were in the gym all day. I had content for days, and, everybody in there had good energy, different training styles, and, they had their own thing going. It was kind of motivating just being in there, like, in there with Joe, all these guys who have like everything established, watching Dev just do crazy shit all day. Like that just made me want to do crazy shit all day, like, and kind of just, meeting people and building and learning, collabing, all that comes into, where we are today. People don't see that. People always ask, how can I be like this trainer, like on this level? And, the goal is never to be a trainer on this level. The goal is to change lives. You got to work hard all day. You got to wake up, train people all day, train yourself. And then you got to network. You got to connect with brands. You got to create content, edit content, post the content, talk about it. Then you got to be consistent with all that shit. So it's
such a tough job, man. I got to tell you that
bro,
the content component, and obviously that is what separates the ones that are killing it from the ones that are not. It's that content game. We live in this digital world, and it's just so, it's like, and it's really daunting. I've never been able to hit that, like I just have never been able to hit that like level of consistency with fitness content. And I'm actually trying to step my game up a little bit now, just because I'm launching a new business in the world of wellness. But man, like your story is wild, dude. I mean, you just took us on a ride, man. That is like, it is so good to hear a story like that, because you rarely get a firsthand, like someone taking you and walking you through from what it means to be an athlete from 9 years old to current day.
Yeah.
I can only imagine just sort of the highs and the lows of that experience. And 9 out of 10 people would have bowed out. You know what I mean? And I think that I would argue to say that, like there's a, for me, the similarities between athletes and entrepreneurs are so alike, just, because you basically have to walk through and take no for, and not take no for an answer. No matter how many times you fall, you just have to get back up and go. And like, I think for me, one of the most important pieces, or what I took from your story, is this idea where you just sort of glazed over those moments where it didn't work out the way you wanted it to work out, but you just talked about the next thing you were doing. And for me, I'm like, it just reminds me so much of what it's like to also be an entrepreneur, and the competition is fierce. And the only people who actually get it are the ones that do it. And it's not about just doing it once or twice or 3, 5, 700. Like when you talked about running those 10-meter dashes, and you're like, dude, I had to do that shit like 100 times a day.
Yes.
Like that's like, dude, that is exactly what it takes to get there. And whether you were born with an inherent skill set, ability, gift to be great at something or not, like the work doesn't, it's not like the work gets easier. As a matter of fact, I feel like when you're born with something and you sort of have this ability, people start to hold the expectation of you much higher. So you have to work harder than everyone. And even then, there's always somebody sitting next to you that's better than you.
Right, it literally, I look at, especially in this the fitness industry, like it's almost like a sport, and we're athletes basically in this sport. We got to work hard at what we're doing. Some people are fortunate enough to have teams behind them, managers and all kind of guys, but you just gotta you gotta, I have floated on to the next, just because I think this is how I think, it's like my business always revert back to my mindset, which, is my brand, is just doing more, fast forwarding to the pandemic, you know, I was at Performix and still training at, oh, no. Yeah, well, I was at Performix and, we heard about Corona and then all of a sudden everything shut down, right? And that following week, that whole week, I was thinking like, oh no. Like, I'm sure everyone was thinking like that. Like, oh no. Like, but I really cared about my clients. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but they have to stay active. They have to do something, So immediately I just announced that weekend, let's do Zoom classes. I want to say I was one of the first people on the Zoom wave right when the pandemic hit, and it helped my business. I was on Pix 11 the following week of me doing the Zoom classes. And after that, my Zoom classes were so packed. It obviously was a good source of making income, but it started to build and open my eyes into like getting a contact list, the email list of building my clients. Like, I would have 30-minute body weight classes on Zoom in home 3 days a week. Then I started switching it up, core, band. Like, I did this from March until June when people started going back outside, and in June, I started my business, Do More Fitness. And, I've always repped do more. And something just clicked, like, sitting at home, I need to start this business and, I got to figure out a way to do it on my own. If there's one thing I learned from this pandemic is that, some people got hit hard, unfortunately, with working for jobs and businesses and things like that, where, they were left, having to figure out what to do or where to go or how to, get some income or whatever the case is. So on my end, I felt like I need to have my own, I need to build my own. I need to start something where I could expand from it, being from what I learned from Performance House is like all those guys, they kind of have their own platform, their own establishment. They're doing their own thing and learning from Devin is like a business mastermind. He's like a good friend of mine. So we talk all the time. We're still in business. I'm like an athlete for Promix, his brand. And I'm an athlete for Cuts, which he just became head of athletes for. So it's like, he always talked to me about what I should do and, things that will help me and just watching people, so that's how I kind of went on the digital side. I didn't do digital prior to this, so, and then things started opening back up. And so mind you, I've been training day-to-day people this entire time, some athletes here and there, but things started opening back up where gyms weren't open, but fields were open. So I started training a lot of people on the field. And then I started bringing out some athletes, started training guys who were in the NFL from my high school. And I'm like, this is what I love. Like, I love training, especially these athletes. I love training in general, but it's something in training the athlete, somebody that's already fast, already strong, correcting that one thing, have them do it again and be like, oh, damn. Like, there's something about like just training a professional, like, so I got into it. And then I've been having talks about moving my family down to Florida, just better for my daughter, life, quality of life. We have a lot of help here. Her stepdad played in the NFL on the Jets. I don't know if you know him, his name is Chris Baker, tight end from the Jets. And, so, they have children as well. So it'd be good for them to interact and play in the pool. And, it's just different from being in the city, So in November, I was just like, this is what I need to do. And that's what I did. I kind of just put everything in the pod. One of my boys drove down with me and, that brought me to Florida. And it's so funny. Me coming from this athletic background, I know so many people in the field that I'm in already. I know the trainers that train the athletes. I know athletes that are still athletes, former athletes, and I feel like they all reside here, So so it's just crazy how life works. Like, I moved here, and my friend Jacoby Ford lives down the block. He played in NFL there's so many of my friends, So Chris Howe connected me with House Athlete, and I knew Brandon just from mutual friends, athletes that played. And I go to House Athlete and start working out, posting content. So my whole goal was come to Florida, go to all the gyms, post content, get under their gym page, because I know my content usually does well engagement. So you're gonna click on the gym, you will see me working out, just so people can see me in everywhere. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's like my whole thing. People, even to today, they're like, it looks like you're everywhere. And it's like, that's how I want my content. It's not boring. I just don't want to be in my gym all day. Like, I just want to get exposure. This is new, Florida, people. So fast forward, I end up, speaking to Brandon, and, he wants to go digital. He's seen my workouts, so it's something he's open to. We've been talking about going digital, like for House Athlete. And, I know the head director of pro training there. He just walks up to me in the gym while I'm on the Kaiser, and he's just like, I've never seen anybody properly use that Kaiser at a 45-degree angle ever. And from then on, we started talking, and he's like the guy that trains all the athletes, So I got tapped in with just all the athletes being there. I don't know if you've seen, but, everywhere from OBJ, Juice Landry, all the LSU guys, everybody, like so many athletes train there. They just had a combine class of 30 guys. I think 16 of them got drafted. It was like the energy in there is insane. The facility is
I gotta
phenomenal.
come down, man.
Nah, bro, come down. I'll bring you, and it's a good time, But fast forward, so I started training. Obviously, people that know me from social media, they kind of reached out to me, seeing that I'm here. Started training like different athletes, but in January, I'm on Call of Duty. And my best friend, he played running back for USC. So I went to USC multiple times just to visit, go to the games. So I don't know if you noticed, but I have a huge USC connection with all the football players there, right? So I'm on Call of Duty with my friends, and Robert Woods, I'm playing with him, and he's like, I'm coming to Miami for 4 months, and I want you to train me for the off season. So he comes out here, and I train him for the whole off season. My friend Jordan Lucas from New Rochelle, he plays on the Bears now. He just won a ring with the Chiefs. He came down with another guy that's in the Chiefs, trained him for a month and some change, and it kind of opened a door of sports performance, So, and like I said, the pandemic kind of brought this joy of training athletes back up into me, So agents started hitting me, trying to just get a contact list of where to send their guys. Me being in Florida, there's tons of athletes here. I train a pro boxer. Down here, I would say I'm tapping more into the sports performance training athletes market. So with that being said, right now Men's Health is in a program called Strength and Diversity, and there's 8 trainers. There's 8 trainers that are mentors and 8 mentee trainers. So I'm one of the mentors in that training, in that program now. We're about a month in, and every Wednesday I have a call with him, but just helping him navigate to the type of trainer he wants to be, business, whatever the case is. He lives in Baltimore. He owns a gym. He has a story as well. Ex-convict, now gym owner, business owner. So this Men's Health partnered with the NSCA, which is the National Strength Conditioning Association, and they make the strength and conditioning cert that all the trainers have that train athletes on teams, pro teams, colleges. So I was speaking to the director. We went on Zoom, and we started talking, and she heard my story, and I'm on a panel speaking to a bunch of people for the NSCA at the end of August to speak to them about training athletes. So I started studying for the test. She sent me the book. I'm gonna get this cert, and they want me to just start speaking at their conferences and for their association, really, just about my story and what it is to train athletes, and the ups and downs, and so it's funny that this is part of why I agreed to do this podcast, is because I've been trying to do things slowly. I came out with my app, right? And then now I have a clothing line with Roan coming out next month. So now I want to get into, speaking more, potentially like a YouTube or web series or anything. I just want to speak more. So when you hit me for the podcast, it's like, the timing is great, because I've only done one other podcast, and that was just for my boy. So the timing is great, where I could kind of speak on the things I've done and, what I have planned. And, so I plan to get that cert and start, training more and more athletes. I'm connected to two guys specifically, Coach Troy at House Athlete and Coach Dr. Reef, who trains Kamara, Ingram, all the guys you could think of. But we're connected, and I know with that cert and me with my background already training athletes, things like that, it'll just improve what I have going on.
Dude, man, it sounds like you have got it figured out. I mean, it's pretty awesome to go like from where you are, and now there's new doors open. I imagine that you're probably going to have a career as an elite trainer to pro athletes. I mean,
I would like to, for sure. And, as people may not know, and I always tell people, training athletes, it's something I love, but it's seasonal, like I'm not going to see Woody until next off season. You know what I'm saying? That's not something that's going to pay the bills. I want to train all athletes, just talking about my goal, at some point I want to feel pressured to open a brick and mortar, because schools, teams, high schools want their teams to come train with me, where now I'm bringing in teams where I could train them all season long in local high schools, and training all athletes. And obviously professional athletes will come in on their off seasons whenever they get the chance, when they're in town. But people have to know that that's not, I know people just want to train the big guys and just train athletes all day, or pro athletes only, but are celebrities only, but you kind of, I want to train all athletes. As you can see, I'm a functional trainer. I like sports performance, and I don't have it figured out, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Dude, we gotta wrap this thing up, but I want to finish up with one thing, because I think you have a really inspiring story, man, and you have really transformed your life. And I think from what I'm getting from this, the most important component of your story is that you are doing something that you absolutely love. And that is so clear. If you had to leave the listener, because a fair amount of people listen to this podcast, if you had to leave the listener with a piece of advice covering anything, what would that piece of advice be?
I think I have to stay on brand. If you have to ask yourself, this is enough, then is this enough? Then you need to do more. That's how I think. And I feel like this is what I have to say, actually. I feel like, good things happen to people who are always working. So which is why my story is how it is. It all sums up to I never stopped working. So things fall in your lap. The hardworking person may not get the MVP trophy, but something will fall in his lap. So I say you stay consistent with whatever you love and keep working. If you lose love in one thing and gain love in the other thing, you're still working. I'm not saying anybody has to focus on anything specific, but I will say good things happen to people who are always working.
Dude, that is such a good piece. I'm gonna take that one because I just finished up a podcast with another athlete, and he basically we sort of came to the conclusion that lucky people put themselves in lucky situations, right?
Yeah.
And everything that happened to him ultimately happened when he was doing what he loved to do. He wasn't looking for that door to open. He was just in the position. He put himself in the place. He put himself in the place, in the right place, and great things happen. So I think that piece of advice is incredible, man. Last question before we go, dude. Do you think you were born or made?
I think I was born. I have to think I was born just because I'm doing what I love, right? And I can't say I dreamed of this. I didn't dream of being a trainer. I dreamed of being a professional football player, growing up. And I didn't dream of this. This is not, all the stuff that I'm doing now is not something that I had in my mind even 5 years ago. So, that is what when it's organic and it's natural, I'll have to go with born. But who knows? I could have been born without it and made it happen.
I think you were born too, dude. I think you were born too. Rashaad, man, this was such an awesome conversation, brother. I really appreciate you taking the time. I can't wait to work out with you. I got to get down to Florida.
Yeah, man. Whenever you get here, just hit me up. I'll make it happen. People, that's like the new thing now. Well, now being out here, I've realized every weekend somebody's here, a trainer, visiting, whatever. Let's work out, bro. Let's work out. Let's work out. That's like a thing. So, I'm with it. Just let me know. We'll have some fun.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. I'm going to let you know when we drop the pod. It's going to probably pop off sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
You're the man. It was so awesome to get to understand your story and to get to know you better. And I just know that people listening in here are going to have so much to appreciate from this pod.
I appreciate you having me. You are respected. I love everything you're doing. Keep being great, and like you said, the energy doesn't lie, which is what got us here today. So I look forward to hearing the pod and seeing you soon.
Hell yeah.
I just hope you, the family, everybody's safe and well, and let's stay in touch.
Same to you, man. Have
a
great
good
rest of your day, brother. Thank you so much for being here.
You too, bro. Be safe.
Later.